team. How is everybody? Yeah, I hope you're doing well. I just realized that the headphones, so I have a mic here, it's just out of frame. But my headphones are tied into a knot and look really weird. Because this is how I'm going to listen to the quantum nonsense. I hope that little intro countdown, it's just what comes with StreamYard. But I hope that was less jarring than me just like popping up and apparently talking loudly early in the morning. Good morning, Andrea and Asexual Atheist. I hope you guys are doing well. I have my coffee this morning. And today what we're going to do, we're going to finish up that quantum nonsense we were watching last week. There's like, it was a 5-video playlist and we got through 3 last week. So we're going to finish that up. If you haven't caught that stream, no worries. The premise is that quantum physics apparently proves the law of attraction, and that's nonsense. So what they're basing that off of, so the law of attraction, right, is this idea that your thoughts shape your reality, right? So if you want to be a movie star, you have to tell that to the universe a lot, and then eventually the universe will give that to you. Things like that. And this idea that like we're able to shape the reality, and how they try to relate that to quantum physics is is he mentioned the double slit experiment. Okay, so the double slit experiment is that classic quantum physics experiment that is if you shoot electrons, you have a pew pew electron gun and you shoot electrons at like a barrier that has 2 slits in it, you don't get on the other side, right? You don't get a picture of 2 slits. You get a wave pattern, a wave interference pattern. Sorry, that's what you get. But if you demonstrating that electrons can in fact be particles and waves, which is very, very cool. Technically, like everything can be a particle and a wave. However, if you chuck photons at those electrons as they're passing through the slit, so photons have sufficient energy, then the electrons are going to kind of like stay in their particle. Like when they go through the slit, you get a particle pattern, the pattern you'd expect from particles. And so this is often the idea that like observation can change reality, which is technically true in the quantum physics world, right? However, the issue there is, of course, that observation is not passive. So it is not that human eyeballs seeing a thing occur or a camera seeing a thing occur. A passive observation causes it to change. No. This observer in this case is actually interacting at this like with its particles interacting. So I love the way Isaac Asimov describes the particle wave duality. He says it's like if you have 2 stick figures trying to understand what a traffic cone is. One looks at it from the side and sees a triangle. One looks at it from the top and sees a circle. And they have, years-long debates about, is this object we're looking at a triangle or is it a circle? Is a photon, is an electron, is it a particle or is it a wave? When the reality is, it is something more complicated, but if you look at it one way, you'll see a circle. If you look at it another way, you'll see a triangle. If you look at a photon one way, you'll see a wave. If you look at it another way, you'll see a particle. Same thing with electrons. And so in this example, right, imagine that the instead of electrons firing at the double slit, it's a full-blown traffic cone, right? And we're firing the traffic cones so that like the skinny circle at the top would go through the slit, but we hit it with a photon and it spins it so that now it looks like a triangle when it hits the wall, right? That's effectively what we're doing. So Tesla's are not quite the 5 blind men and the elephant, because the idea there is that the difference between those two is that the elephant, in theory, we could fully perceive, right? The problem with like what's complicated about particle wave duality is that we exist, we as human beings exist in a three-dimensional, 3.5 dimensional world, right? Or we perceive the world to be that big, the universe to have that many dimensions. But we know that the universe is at least 11, somewhere between 11 and 21, depending on your favorite version of string and M theory. And so the universe is much more complicated than what we're able to perceive. Anywho, so okay. Silver Harlow is surprised that this author didn't go into the delayed choice quantum eraser. The name sounds more complicated than double slit and is already halfway to woo. True. I would be shocked and amazed if he like would even know to Google that, because this is like baby's first quantum physics. Native atheist coming in with terrible science jokes this morning. Photon checks into a hotel. Desk clerk asks any luggage. The photon says, no, I'm traveling light. Love that. Love that. Yes, Tesla, exactly. The stick figures were two-dimensional and therefore can't perceive the traffic cone in 3D. This works as analogy much better whenever I am at my chalkboard, but we're at my desk right now. So anyway, okay. So the structure of these videos, it's literally a guy reading from a book. So I am going to do this and okay, we're on the fourth video. So I vote we go ahead and get started, right? Everybody, you got your coffee, you got your breakfast cereals, your bananas and granola if you're healthier than me. Okay, then let's get started. Let's see what woo-woo nonsense we've got. Okay.
Do you guys see this
Oh,
app
I'm
right
so sorry.
here?
That's
it's called Audible.
That's
There's
an
actually
ad because I don't have ad blockers because I'm cheap. Okay. There we go.
Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
Hi, this is Greg Kuhn. Today I'm reading from my popular book, Why Quantum Physicists Create More Abundance.
What flavor of
This is
Pop-Tarts,
chapter
Tesla?
4, More Bizarre Science from the Second Scientific Revolution. The law of attraction can be explained
You're
using
not late
science.
at all. Okay.
While it is not
You just
important
started
for
the
you to
video.
become a physicist, the more confidence you have in the science of the law of attraction, the better you'll be at creating deliberately. You'll get more of what you desire. You now know that all matter is simply vibrating energy.
No. So that was a thing he claimed earlier. Ooh, brown sugar and cinnamon. They always had those in the vending machine when I was in the Navy. And so and I like always forgot to eat. Always. So I very commonly would like get the brown sugar cinnamon out of the vending machine and eat them cold by just dunking them into my coffee. That's almost as like Navy gourmet as now I was never deployed. I did get to go underway for like a week at a time on a submarine and a carrier. But I was always attached to a shore-based command. But like on a submarine, right? The biggest treat you can give yourself is like mess coffee with a packet of hot chocolate in it. Anyway, okay. Okay, so anyway, sorry. He's like, all matter is just vibrating energy or something like that. Like, no, right? Because if you want to talk about matter vibrating, that is talking about its kinetic energy, which is related to its temperature. So all mass can be converted to other forms of energy. That is true. But mass itself is a way of storing energy, and the only way to go from mass to other forms of energy is going to be through a nuclear process where we're actually going to convert mass to other forms of energy by E equals mc squared. And like that's not super easy. Turns out mass and matter is a very stable way to store energy. Um, and then when that matter then vibrates, right, that is it gaining kinetic energy. And it's really only you want to think of it as vibrating. That's much more useful in the realm of when that mass is in a solid state. If it's in a liquid or gaseous or plasma state, then the atoms are just moving around. They're just moving around doing their thing, right? That's how they're gonna have that kinetic energy. So um he'd never like cited a source for this matter just vibrating energy, and it's not. I think he might be trying to reference string theory without understanding string theory. Um, but anywho, all right. I just can't let him say those things and get away with it.
You know that your expectations of that vibrating energy manifests its form.
Sure doesn't.
You know that your thoughts are things.
Sure
They are
aren't.
vibrating energy too. And some of the most
I would agree that your thoughts are energy in the sense that they're like electrical impulses in the brain. But like that doesn't mean that your thoughts are able to affect things outside of yourself, you know?
powerful vibrations in the universe. And you know that like energy vibrations are attracted to more powerful like energy vibrations.
That's also not true. He tried to say that we're all magnets and apparently the only force that exists is electromagnetic. So that's also not true.
But allow me to illustrate just how simple it can be to change your material reality.
Okay, tell me.
Did you know that all matter is completely insubstantial?
So that's not true at all, right? All matter is not completely insubstantial. It is true that matter is mostly empty space. So, for example, if an atom was the size of, say, a professional football stadium, then the nucleus of that atom would be about the size of an orange on the 50-yard line, right? And then the electrons would be orbiting at like the stands. And so that is mostly empty space, but like the protons, that's a physical thing, right? So that's not the protons and the neutrons and the electrons themselves are not insubstantial. They're just very small.
The vibrating electromagnetic energy we call matter is literally as insubstantial as smoke.
No. Okay, I love that. The vibrating electromagnetic energy we call matter. So that's some nonsense. So the only thing I can think of that's like real where he might have gotten that from would be something like pair production, um, which is where a photon, which is really, 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 really high energy, and it spontaneously splits into an electron and a positron. Um, Tesla Ranger, absolutely. If that was true, we could walk through walls. A native atheist, no, I do not think this guy is a physicist. He has a very low understanding of physics, frankly. But during pair production, when that photon splits into an electron and a positron, now the electron and the positron, they're no longer a photon. They are now a new thing, right? So that's electromagnetic energy, right? A photon turning into matter. But once it's turned into matter, it's no longer an electromagnetic wave, right? Or things like that. So, like, it's fundamentally changing. Okay.
You can't even touch it, actually. And once you understand just how insubstantial matter really is, you'll find that creating your own reality is not as difficult a leap as it once seemed. You know that everything in the universe is made of atoms. Even the air you're breathing is made of atoms. So to see how insubstantial matter is, let's blow an atom up to the size of a huge cathedral.
Oh, yeah.
Almost the entire mass of an atom is contained in its nucleus.
That is true.
And in our cathedral metaphor, the nucleus of an atom is the size of a fruit fly in the middle of that huge cathedral. 99.9% of the touchable physical matter of an atom is the size of a fruit fly buzzing around in a giant cathedral. The rest of the atom is just empty space. That's right, 99% of an
So yeah, that's true. Like most of an atom is empty space. Most of matter is empty space. But that doesn't mean that what isn't empty space doesn't exist.
atom is empty space. This, of course, means that 99% of you is empty space.
Mhm.
99% of your table is empty space. 99% of your cat is empty space. I think you get the idea. Any material object in the universe is 99% empty space. Think of a big cloud of cigar smoke blown out of the smoker's mouth, and you've got an idea of what you and every material object in the universe really are.
No,
In fact,
right? Because I don't have the ability to walk through a wall, right? Like is it true that I am a solid human like flesh basket? Yeah, absolutely. Right? Um so I am in fact more substantial than smoke, right? Even though hold on, I'm going to sneeze and I don't want to blow your guys' mics out. All right, sorry. I didn't want to kill everybody's ears, but I really had to sneeze. By the way, oh gosh, welcome to spring in Oklahoma. I was like out here in my office yesterday, like sweating through my clothes. And so this morning I thought, oh, okay, I'll wear a tank top so I'm like not nearly as hot. And now I'm like, I'm actually kind of cold. We're definitely in the like you need your heater and your AC on at different times during the day. I think there were some tornadoes in the Panhandle last night. Some of my peers from grad school were going out chasing, and they were headed towards the Panhandle. So I don't know. I don't really study severe weather. It's interesting. It affects my day to day life, but I wasn't paying super close attention to it because I was very sleepy. Anyway, so but also with it being spring in Oklahoma, the weather changes so much, and then there's like things growing, and so my allergies have gone insane. Excuse me. All right. Okay, so he's just talking nonsense. I remember what I did last time. I had him talk. That's not what I wanted. I sped him up to 1.25, and that was much more tolerable. Micah, as far as I can tell, that's what he thinks.
matter is so insubstantial that you can't actually touch anything because there's literally nothing there to touch. And even if there was anything to be touched, your hand couldn't touch it anyway because your hand is 99% empty space too.
And yet we touch things all the time. So like, let's calm down. Native Atheist, yeah, it's going to be a bad tornado season this year. So just buckle in, pay attention to the National Weather Service, all that good stuff.
In fact, if someone picked your body apart atom by atom with the world's finest tweezers, all that would be produced would be a small mound of atomic dust you could blow away with a single breath. Naturally, you ask, then why does it feel like I am touching things? You experience touch because the magnetic forces of atoms repel each other.
So he keeps saying magnetic. Electromagnetic is the more correct term. It is true that like most of like contact forces are really break down to EM. So atoms repelling each other. So that's certainly true. And in that sense, we are like solid beings, right? That's certainly because the word solid is a human made up term that we use to describe the world that we live in. So it turns out it still means the thing that we humans intended for it to mean. Sorry, he's trying to get like tricky with language, and I'm not here for it.
When they come in direct contact. What feels like touch is actually the sensation of electromagnetic repulsion as you come within 1 angstrom. That's 1/100 millionth of a centimeter of the atoms making up the other material object.
I don't know if you actually get within an angstrom, because an angstrom. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, team. What is because angstrom is like It's a unit of measure that's useful on like atomic scales, but I thought it was based off of like the size of a hydrogen atom or something. Angstrom, maybe I spelled that right. We're about to find out. Yeah, what does an angstrom measure? Or is it just 10 to the negative 10th meters? Okay. How many angstroms is an atom? There you go. The diameter of an atom is on order of magnitude 1 angstrom. So that's about the size of an atom. Excellent. That's what I thought. Cool. Cool. Anyhow. All right. Share this tab instead. Nailed it.
Have you ever had anyone tell you that you're repulsive? Now you can say,
Ha
of
ha
course I
ha.
am. Without that magnetic repulsion, you'd float right through every material object in the universe, just like a ghost.
No. Well,
You're not actually sitting in
maybe.
your
I
chair.
don't know.
You're floating 1/100 millionth of a centimeter above the atoms that make up your chair.
Yeah, but
And
viewing
you're
the
not
world
actually
like that
touching
is
your
not
Kindle or
useful, right? Like, oh, you're not actually like saying I'm not actually sitting in my chair. That's not useful. And when you're doing like physics on things the size of me in my chair, right? Um, then it like you don't need to use the quantum side, you know what I mean? Like you can use nope, they're touching, these are contact forces, this is a balance of like friction and gravity, right? Nebula, I'm sorry Google didn't remind you. That's upsetting. Uh you haven't missed much. Okay. I need to drink more
your
coffee.
iPad. Your hand is coming within 1/10 billionth of a meter from the atoms that make up that mouse in your hand. But atoms get even stranger. You remember the
Do
drawings of
they?
atoms from your high school science book? They look like mini universes, right? The hard shell of the nucleus, surrounded by the orbiting electrons, circling the nucleus in perfect ellipses. In reality, that image couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, no joke, man. That's not what atoms actually look like. That's just, a good way to think about it when we're trying to conceptualize complicated things. All right. All right. And that's not a universe. I think he meant like a solar system. Like planets orbiting the sun, except that's also not what a solar system look like because it's pretty universal that planets orbit in a single disk, right? And this doofus is confusing solar systems with the universe. Ugly German truths, absolutely. So that's silly. It's a very silly thing for him to have done. So in reality, what we would see is one, electrons exist in this like electron cloud. There are orbits, they're not elliptical. They depend on energy level and their shape is a little weird. It's a lot easier to think of them as energy levels or energy potentials if you're trying to do some like atom scale physics. Um, uh, yeah, but turns out they're very complicated. Atoms, that is. And then the protons and neutrons in the nucleus, those are pretty kind of stuck together because they're brought together by the nuclear strong force. And so obviously protons are repelling each other, but if the atom is like staying together, then like not actively undergoing fission, then the nuclear strong force is beating out all of the electromagnetic force. So the nuclear strong force is a force that acts on nucleons. So nucleons are neutrons and protons. It is much stronger than the electromagnetic force, but it acts over a shorter distance. So I like to describe this when I was teaching it in the Navy. Um, uh, think of the nuclear strong force as Superman, and the electromagnetic force is like Mr. Fantastic, right? So Superman is way stronger than Mr. Fantastic, but his arms are a fixed size. Mr. Fantastic can stretch his arms out, right, and try to push things away, but he's not nearly as strong as Superman. So if he can get something that's out of Superman's reach, then he's going to win. But if it's in Superman's reach, in the nuclear strong force's reach, then Superman is going to win. Oh yeah. This is the old Bohr, exactly. Ugly German Truths. That's the old Bohr model of the atom. And again, like if you're thinking about high school level chemistry, this is not a bad way to view how atoms work. But it's not real. That's not what they really are. And what an atom like really is and really looks like is incredibly complicated and a little philosophical. And as far as I know, it's not fully understood. We understand it a lot better, but I don't think it's fully understood, because it's they're hard to look at because they're very small. That's okay.
because the electrons outside the atom's nucleus pop in and out of existence all the time. Talk about strange. In the atom's world, an electron.
Okay, so the electrons exist. I'm not sure I would describe that as popping in and out of existence. They exist in a cloud of potential, right? This is the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. You can either know where the electron is or where it's going. So if you look at an atom, you're not going to see where the electrons are, right? If we could really look at it. If you could force those electrons into one place by measuring them, right? You could do that. But if you did that, then they wouldn't be moving, and so you wouldn't know where they were going, right? That's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle in, a minute or less. Sorry. Okay. And sorry, Ugly German Truths is I'm distracted by the chat. Ugly German Truths is making some really great points in the chat, of how you would use an electron scanning microscope, electron microscope to look at, it's not using visible light. Anywho, so these electrons exist in the cloud of potential, and saying they pop in and out of existence, that's not how I would describe that at all. They can kind of, like, if you happened to see one, right, that would be astonishing because they're kind of always moving around, again, in this cloud of potential. They have a probability of being at any location along their orbit at any given time. That's what's going on there. But I mean, there are particles that appear to pop in and out of existence. That's Peter's pointing that out in chat. And there's also, at the quantum level, you have particles that can, they're here and then they're over here, right? So they can travel from point A to point B without passing through all the points in between. So they can teleport. That's astonishing. Yeah. Okay. But again, so specifically, I'm not happy with that popping in and out of existence terminology. I don't like that because they're there. They're existing at all times, right? They're existing at all times, but we just don't always know. We don't know where they are. So that's different to me than popping in and out of existence. If that makes sense.
Can not only jump from one orbit to another instantly without actually traversing the distance from one location to another, but it can also appear from nowhere and then disappear again. Physicists believe.
So in order for an electron to move from one orbit, like a lower orbit to a higher orbit, you have to give it energy. And orbits exist as finite states. So they're like the stair steps, right? They're like steps or floors in a building. You can be on the first floor, you can be on the third floor, or the second floor, but there is no 1.5 floor, right? So I can be on the first floor or I can be on the second floor. I can't be in between. And so no, electrons don't just kind of spontaneously jump orbits. So they never spontaneously jump up in orbit, right? Because I have to give them energy to get up a level, right? We have to get in the elevator and go up a level. There's energy involved in that. So we do that. They will spontaneously fall down an energy level. Energy levels are also orbits, right? There's an energy level associated with every orbit. So they will spontaneously do that because that's going from a higher energy state, a more excited state, to a less excited state. So they can do that. And they will, that it would appear to us as spontaneously being here and then here. But again, that's because these are discrete. There we go. That's the word I've been looking for. Electron orbits exist in discrete energy states. So there's no such thing as in between. That doesn't exist. Okay. So I think that's what he's talking about there.
Believe the electron is actually in another dimension, but they know for certain that at times it isn't there any longer. So if we could actually see it, an atom would look more like a tennis ball shaped fog. The fog would represent an area of probability because electrons could appear anywhere in that fog at any time.
That's true.
The notion that physical objects are substantial.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to note this. Like he did say that like electrons might exist in another dimension. That's very 50s sci-fi speak, right? Like travels from this ninth dimension or something like that. It would be more correct in my mind to say that electrons are sort of more fully inhabiting the universe, right? When we're looking at these very small particles, they're inhabiting parts of our universe that you and I are incapable of perceiving and to some degree understanding. I don't like to put limits on human understanding, but at this moment in time, like I cannot. I mean, I know how I conceptualize higher dimensions for like math problems. I think of it as like colors and music and textures, but that's not really helpful for like, no, this is another physical dimension that this electron is traveling in, and I don't know what that would look like. I can do math with it, but I don't know what that would look like. There's a little debate going on in chat about, does this guy have scientific credentials? I have never seen him claim to have scientific credentials. I've never seen him claim to have any credentials whatsoever. But anywho, he's just because he's just speaking some nonsense, honestly. All right.
Pre-existing things is actually a very effective illusion. The quantum field is a swirling, smoky, insubstantial mass of an.
That's right. You guys heard it here first. We all secretly live on the holodeck. Yeah. All right.
Infinitesimal number of
infinitesimal
atoms. The physical objects you create are still smoky, insubstantial things, just like the quantum field from which they are brought forth.
He also,
since your command,
so he's referenced this quantum field in the previous 3 videos. That was part 1 of my reaction from last week. He has yet to define what this quantum field is supposed to be. I do not know. I do not know what he means.
Which objects will be created from the quantum field, you constantly put the law of attraction into action, scientifically speaking.
We sure don't. All right. So that's the end of video number 4. No, please scroll more. Thank you. Dora getting me with the Star Trek jokes. Yeah, you never want to use the holodeck after Riker. Ooh, or that one time in Voyager when Tuvok was going through his Ponfar, the best option they could come up with was maybe get your rocks off on the holodeck, my guy. Anywho, yeah. CERN is absolutely looking for like some particles. I don't know exactly which ones they're still looking for or whatever have you. And how would we know we don't live in the holodeck or the Matrix? We wouldn't, right? That question boils down to last Thursdayism, right? How do we know the universe didn't just pop into existence exactly as it is now last Thursday? No way to know, right? You can't prove that because you can always default to magic. So I don't find that like I don't find those useful or fun questions. Some people do, so that's nice. Nice for them. That's not my jam. Anywho, um, oh gosh, sorry, I have such an urge to just talk about Star Trek instead of anything else right now. But no, guys, we're gonna power through. We've only been going half an hour this morning, and there's only one video left. We're gonna keep watching it as I don't know why you can't super chat. This should have been fixed. That's upsetting to me. Let me. I'm gonna check a thing. I'm gonna check a thing really fast. Sorry, because I thought I had that all turned on. Um, and okay, content. Sorry, I am on my YouTube studio page over here where you can't see me. Um, trying to fix it. Okay. Uh, do this button. Okay. That one. Huh. Because I should be able to. That's not helpful. I'm sorry. Don't mind me doing quick. Whatchamacallit, really fast. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. What? Why are we not doing this? There we go. I had to click a button that I didn't realize I had to click. All right. I'm so good at YouTube. Okay. Sorry. Awesome. Okay. I'm glad you guys are enjoying chatting about Star Trek in the side chat while I fix stuff. Hot take. How do you guys feel about Picard? Because I watched a few episodes, and on the one hand, it was hitting me in all the nostalgias, but then it was the episode. Like some of the writing felt lazy. That was that was how I felt, to be honest, which is a shame because like I love Star Trek and I love Picard. So a lot of the like conflict felt really unearned to me. Like a lot of the like supposed to be these are supposed to be like big emotional beats that was hitting in the story. And I think I watched all of season 1 and I don't want to spoil anything, but that's what it felt to me. It felt like they wanted to have all of these big emotional beats and none of them were earned or built up in the narrative. That's what I mean by lazy writing. Like that's anyway, okay. All right. Last of the law of attraction explained. Okay. See, ugly German sorry.
Welcome, dear one.
Andrea,
I've been eagerly awaiting.
I love Deep Space Nine, actually. I love Deep Space Nine. There are arcs in it that I'm not a big fan of, but as I've gotten older, Deep Space Nine has possibly become one of my most of my favorite episodes are in Deep Space Nine.
Book, Why Quantum Physicists Create More Abundance. This is chapter 5, Putting the Science of the Law of Attraction into Action.
Also, is it just me? But
this book has only
What do you want to do tonight?
Is 5 chapters really a book? Like, wouldn't that be more of maybe a novella? Perhaps. Oh my gosh, why? Why am I so bad at technology? Okay.
Exclusion principle. The exclusion principle says that certain pairs of subatomic particles, even separated by great distances, can instantly know what the other is doing.
So this is a real thing. Oh, hey, it works now. Thank you so much, Dora. You guys are so kind. So there's a super chat. Look at that. I got a super chat. I'm so cool. I'm like a real YouTuber. So what he said, so there do exist a really cool, weird quantum thing is you have like this particle and this particle. I'll look in frame. This particle and this particle, and like let's say that they're paired in such a way that this one's spin will be the opposite of this one's spin, right? Because like spin is a thing that is conserved. Okay, so we have up and down, and then we move them really far apart. There we go. And then we flip the spin of this guy. Instantaneously, this guy's spin will flip the other way. Even though there's like we don't know the mechanism by which they're communicating, they get entangled like this. That's like a basic example of quantum entanglement. Which is really weird. Like it's really cool and it's really weird and hints that the universe is much more complicated than we know, right? It's great.
In the 1997 experiment, physicists sent photons 7 miles apart in opposite directions, yet found that when one photon was jostled, it produced an instantaneous and identical reaction in the other photon, even though it was 7 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
It's as if you put a beach ball in Cleveland and another in Warsaw, and when you spun the ball in Cleveland, the ball in Warsaw spun in exactly the same direction at exactly the same speed the instant you did it.
That is kind of what it's like. Like I said, it's really weird. It's really weird and really cool.
We call this entanglement, and only recently have physicists begun to produce further results from studying it. For years, scientists chose to ignore the University of Geneva's.
No, scientists don't choose to ignore stuff. Let's stop being mean to scientists. They would need to replicate the experiment. Does this apply to what other types of particles can we do this with, right? Oh crap, we might need to build a whole big another particle collider, and figure some of this. Anywho, right? Like, they're not ignoring it, and I have a sneaking suspicion that he's going to say that this means that like you and I can instantaneously affect each other or something like that, that's not the claim. Just because like subatomic particles can do this does not mean that you and I can do it, right? The physics of the quantum scale is different than the physics of planets and humans or planet-sized things, right? And should there be, the like one theory of physics that explains all of it? Yes. Do we know what that is yet? No. Okay.
Experiment because it invalidated Einstein's theory of general relativity, which states that nothing can move faster than light. The University of Geneva.
And then Okay, let's not invalidate. Okay, we don't need to. So it's not in general relativity. Nothing can move faster than the speed of light. It's not strictly true, right? It would be true to say like information can't travel faster than the speed of light, but we think about information in terms of EM. Like the fastest you and I are able to transmit information is by electromagnetic waves and light, right? Okay. Yeah. I think you're right, Silverhawk. I think he thinks quantum spin has something to do with real spin, like physical things spinning, and that's nonsense. That's not real. Also, hi, Microraptor. We're all nerds here. It's great. That's why we spend our Saturday mornings talking about quantum physics and making fun of people that don't understand it well. Okay, I don't understand it super well, but I know it better than this guy. Okay, so I got distracted. What were we talking about? Oh, he was saying this like disproves general relativity. So no, because in theory, things can move faster than the speed of light. What the speed of light fundamentally acts as is a barrier. If you move slower than the speed of light, you can't move faster than the speed of light. If you move faster than the speed of light, you can't move slower than the speed of light. That is, that's like the real consequence, the real theory. Now, we've never found anything that travels faster than the speed of light, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. Um, I don't even know how we would go about measuring those types of things, right? I don't know how that would work because like time would work differently for those particles. Um, yeah, something like space expanding is not regulated by the same limits, right? Exactly. That's not the same thing. So also, so these two things are entangled. So how is information about the spin getting from A to B? Native atheist for $20. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Learning some things, lots of things are going over your head. I'm sorry. I hope everybody's learning. I hope everybody's learning today. Thank you so much for the super chat. That's really, really kind and deeply appreciated. My financial goal for my channel by the end of the year is just for it to pay for itself. That's my whole goal. That's my whole goal. It will pay for itself if it makes like $30 to $50 a month. So I've now almost made my monthly goal thanks to Native Atheist. Anyway, the universe breaks my brain too, Sisyphean bead. But that's what's really cool about it. And so much of this is things we don't know, right? And I love that. If we knew everything like that, knowing things doesn't really get me excited. Realizing how much we don't know and like we could work on knowing more about it and becoming less wrong. Like that's what science is, and that's really exciting and is, it makes me all giddy and stuff. So like this being true doesn't like disprove general relativity. It shows us that like there's more to the universe than Einstein might have thought, right? There's more going on. Also, general relativity, that's mostly that has a lot to do with like gravity. And so how do we look at the like macroscopic and the quantum scale, and bring these two together, right? That's really cool. um uh yeah, yeah. um that's really cool. So maybe there's a way to transfer information between these two particles, right? That doesn't have anything to do with electromagnetic energy, right? That would be amazing. And I don't know how that works, right? I don't think scientists know how that works, but it does happen. So it's really cool. It's really, really, really cool. Um, yeah. Okay.
To prove that information can move faster than light. Information can move instantaneously.
But not all information, right? Not all information. That's part of the tricky thing.
There are many conceptual leaps for us to make from quantum physics, and so much information that sounds crazy or at least totally contrary to anything we know. Perhaps the most difficult conceptual leap for us will be letting go of seeing things as either or. Having been raised with classical physics as our paradigm, we are used to a complementary model. Things are either this or that.
I don't know, like, I hope you don't view things in the world as either or. That's like black and white thinking. That's like a cult mindset. That's a cult thing. Black and white thinking is. It's also a symptom of anxiety, according to my therapist. Um, but I notice a lot, especially in like young Earth creationism land, of people, and this is also like true in general. Like people want to think of things as like they're either good or bad. They either like are broken or work perfectly. You know what I mean? Like we want the world to exist in binaries, and it just doesn't. Um. Uh. So like I don't know why you would think Newtonian physics encourages you to think like that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Um, uh, Microraptor just made me laugh. So they're always skeptical of binaries. I love that. And I really like your little icon. I like the rainbow atom. That's very cool. Um, so yeah, also I'm not quite sure where he's going with this point of like, so what we've learned through quantum entanglement is that um the rules that govern one part of the universe can't just be directly applied to this part, and we don't fully know why. And that's exciting. That means physicists will continue to be gainfully employed for the foreseeable future, which is great news for physicists. Trying to understand all of this. Okay, so now we went from that to, I think he's just saying the world is more complicated, but now he's trying to say that like you were taught that the everything exists in binaries, but that's not really the case. So I reject the premise, but it is true that like the world doesn't exist in binaries.
Male or female, hot or cold, large or small, wave or particle, etc.
No.
We are comfortable with this notion and can even
No. You have to think of them as sometimes things are both or neither. Those are choices.
readily accept that these two polar opposites complement each other. But as you now know, quantum physics asks us to embrace a universe where things aren't this or that. We now have a universe where things are both this and that.
You've always
All
had that
material
universe,
things
my
at their
guy.
essence spring forth from a field of unlimited possibility, the quantum field. And it is actually our expectation of what we observe that brings about any concrete materialization.
No. I was with you there for a little while, my guy. But no, it's not our expectations that mean nothing, right? The universe is cold and unfeeling. It doesn't care about your expectations. Yeah. Yeah, Microraptor, that's a good point. So as a society, we've been taught that you're either male or female, but like we're growing in our understanding and moving away from that idea, which is great. But yeah, you're never taught that something is like either hot or cold, because or short or tall, large or small. Those are all relative terms, right? My body is like hot because I'm at 98 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Compared to an ice cube. But an ice cube is really, really hot compared to the 40 Kelvin that it is in space, you know? So like these are all relative terms. And I think most people if you think about that for 5 seconds, you should understand it, you know? It's not that difficult a concept. And these terms of language are how we're comparing things. This and this are different. This is a way in which they are different. But small is not a universal property. Okay.
Without our observation and our expectations, matter doesn't materialize.
False. Matter doesn't care about you and me. Matter, in fact, existed well before humans. So please explain to me, my guy, what caused the first proton to materialize? What caused the first iron atom to materialize and drift over here? And you know what I mean? Like, no, everything exists without humans there to perceive it, right? Oh, Silver Harlow taking me out of context, making me seem very arrogant. Okay. He thinks he might think that the observer effect requires a consciousness to work. He hasn't explicitly stated that, but he's definitely implying it here. Okay.
Maybe it will be most difficult for us to embrace the notion that things are not really a sum of their parts as we've always thought. The universe really isn't like a clock, with inner mechanisms working together with the expressed purpose of forming a larger object.
Yeah, so oh my gosh, sorry, there's so much with that sentence. So, is the universe like a clock? No, it's not like set into motion. And then if you knew everything the moment it was set into motion, then you're going to know exactly how things are going to fall out. Like that's not real life. Um, two, what did he just, sorry, he just said something that it was bad in a different way. And what did he say?
With inner mechanisms working together with the expressed purpose of forming a larger object. The universe and everything in it.
Oh, he said this phrase, the expressed purpose of forming a larger object. The universe has no purpose, right? There is no purpose to the universe. It just is, right? And that is a very human thing to do. It's a very, it's not just a new age woo woo thing. It's, you get this with a lot of, I run into it a lot with like young earth creationists. But a lot of people really want to believe that like, uh, humans have to have been specially created because we have a purpose, right? like or they think that like evolution, like the purpose of evolution was to make a human. Like there's no end goal in natural processes. There's no goal in natural processes. These are just things that happen, right? um so yeah. um New Age woo sounds much like Vogon poetry. Boomer, you bringing out the Douglas Adams references. Love that. Love that journey for you. Okay. So yeah, common thing here that is very woo is to think that the universe has a purpose, right? It does not. It just is. It's a thing that exists and is. It's as unthinking and feeling as a rock. Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, team. Talking about, I don't mind that y'all's mind, like it does not bother me that other people's minds are stuck on double entendres. I am so bad with social things sometimes, um, that I don't realize. Also, like raised pretty sheltered. Sometimes things I say are double entendres, and I don't realize it. I've been made fun of enough by some good friends for that I've mostly self-corrected, but I will so I don't always know when I do it. I'm so sorry. I don't have that many social skills.
Is actually a system of parts working in complete cooperation for unknown reasons.
No. No, the universe is not a system of parts working in cooperation. Cooperation requires consciousness, and then it's for some unknown reason. There doesn't have to be a reason. It can just be, right? Things don't have to have a purpose. They can just exist. Um yeah, okay.
And each part has individual identities just as important as the larger object they're helping to create.
Jeez, no. Right? Identity, again, that's a like consciousness thing, right? A rock doesn't have a sense of self-identity. Neither does planet Earth or the sun, right? That's not, or an atom. That's, they don't have an identity, right? Because an identity is like something I feel or make up about myself, right? My identity is a thing that I have made about myself. So that's like a, you need consciousness to do that. You know what I mean? Um, and that's not real. That's not real, my guy.
Your body, for example, is not a machine. Your hypothalamus produces unique amino acids associated with the emotions you experience, which are ingested by your cells.
He did a biology. I'm just going to assume it's wrong, or overly simplified because I am not a biologist. um, uh, so yes, there is a mechanism by which I feel emotions, right? That is chemicals in my brain, right? And that's the chemicals in my brain, chemicals in my body, which I experience as the sensation of an emotion. right? Of course, there's a mechanism by which we experience emotion, right? Of course, there's a biological mechanism for that because we are biological beings, right? Um, yeah, and absolutely ugly German truths. Like I don't know what he means there by unique. Other mammals should have the same hormones, etc. Yeah, so like when I feel sad, if I feel sad and you feel sad, we're both experiencing the same like chemicals, right? That's just how that works. There's a sad chemical and there's a happy chemical, right? Obviously, I'm grossly oversimplifying, but your sad chemical is not unique from mine. And you're happy, these are that's not how that works.
Your cells actually become addicted to the amino acids to which they are most often exposed and begin to tell your hypothalamus to produce them.
So, not a biologist, I don't think that's right, because addiction is like can't function without, right? The cell will die if it doesn't get this thing. And I think that can happen with like some chemicals, but not all of them, right? Um and also certain feelings, certain things we experience are it's certain things we experience are because of a lack of those chemicals, right? Like a lack of serotonin will do a number on your brain, and how you view the world. um so so that I think what he's trying to say is like I think what he's trying to get at is your thoughts control your emotional state. I think that's what he's getting at. And you are if so like if you feel happy, the more you feel happy, the more your cells will crave happy juices and will then make you happy. I mean, like, so one, I think that's what he's talking about. So let's let him finish this thought, and then we can talk about why that's a trash take.
Since your hypothalamus cannot produce the amino acids your cells are asking for without experiencing the emotion associated with them, it in turn tells you to experience the emotions necessary to produce the acid. On a daily basis, you are experiencing emotions for the sole reason that your cells are asking for the amino acids your brain produces when you feel those emotions. It turns out that your immune system also produces.
Okay, so yeah, I think I kind of predicted what he was saying. So let's talk about why that's a trash take. Because the trash take is this. So if this process worked exactly like he just said it does, right? Then, okay, I feel happy and we feed happy chemicals to my cells, then my cells want to feel happy more, right? They're like, oh, that tasted so good. Nom, nom, nom. Please give me more. And then that feeds back and causes me to feel happy, right? And we get in a feedback loop, right? So um so here's why that's a trash take. Um A, circumstances matter. There's times when, you know, feeling happy is not the appropriate emotion, right? If I was being chased by a tiger and running for my life, if I was feeling happy, right, instead of afraid, there would be something wrong with me. Also, feeling afraid if I'm being chased by a tiger is good because when I feel afraid, that comes with a boost of like adrenaline and can in fact help me run faster. So I'm more likely to survive. Right. Um, two, so one that to me, my little like cultometer started blinking and I started seeing hints of toxic positivity there. So I want to just go like, nope. Um, um, I'm gonna pop this comment from Ugly German Truths up. Addiction it's a mental and it's a physical thing. It's not like it's caused yeah, you get more receptors than the stimulant. Yeah. Um Anywho, we'll leave that up because I like it when you guys drop knowledge bombs in the chat. Okay, so the other thing that's trash about that take is, let's say is for people who have like clinical depression or anxiety, right? He's basically saying that, well, just don't feel that way, right? Think of something happy and then your brain will fix itself. Or, the great advice I've been given for anxiety, which I have like a diagnosed anxiety disorder. I take medication for it. It's a thing I deal with. It's fine. And I have a lot of great coping mechanisms. I also need medication. Or else I think everyone I know is dead at all times. Anywho, so if I'm really anxious, just saying, oh, you should just say, like, go for a walk and go outside and go for a walk. Because if you do that, then that's going to produce some serotonin and that's going to cause you to be like not anxious, right? Tesla Ranger exactly simplifying what I was saying. Have you tried not feeling depressed? Right. So there's this idea baked into what he just said, that is, you could cure your own depression or cure your own anxiety simply by like forcing yourself to feel happy. But like when you are depressed or when you are anxious, you can't do that. So in my example of, listen, in general, I feel pretty good after I go for a walk. I almost looked around to make sure my dogs weren't here to see me say the W word out loud. I'm in my garage office. The dogs are in the house, so we're safe. Yes, that's true. But when anxiety is really bad, going for a walk makes it worse, right? I can't do that. Physically can't, because like the process of having to think through all of the steps to get ready to go for a walk, like, okay, I would need to like put on shoes and get a key and leave the house. Those things in my like disordered anxiety brain spiral into something really big. And if I think about doing the action, I actually start to have a panic attack, right? It makes the anxiety worse. That's nonsense, right? Of course that's nonsense. Of course that sounds crazy because my brain is jacked up, right? Um, but when I'm on like proper medication, that doesn't mean that I never feel anxious. That means coping mechanisms now work, right? That means I can now, okay, I'm just going to go take a walk and then I'll feel better, right? I'm going to go sit outside. I'm going to pet my dog. And these things now help me feel better. When sans medication, they don't, right? Anywho, uh, uh, so anyway, that's like where the alarm in my brain is going off for the kind of logical conclusion of the things he's saying here. It seems like he's trying to say that you in fact have control over the way you feel, and you don't. No human has control over the way you feel, right? Emotions just happen. How we respond to them is up to us, right? Yeah. Okay. Now I think he's going to go and tell us that we can actually control our immune system too, which is, so we'll get into even more ableist takes. Yay! Jeez.
These amino acids, which suggests that your immune system operates independently from the consciousness of you or your brain. According to preliminary research, your immune system may very well have its own consciousness. I also believe letting go of the notion of
your immune system, I don't think that has a consciousness in any real sense. I mean, like, let a biologist correct me on that and explain that to me. But like, your immune system does just work independently of you. Okay.
The distinct and separate observer will be a difficult one for our culture. The idea that your observations and expectations being part of the data involved in your evaluation is a challenge to accept in our current paradigm. As a professional educator, I am familiar with hearing the kids in my classroom are behaving well or terribly, as if the teacher is separate from what she is observing.
No. Okay, so those two things don't compute, right? Again, observation and expectation, like, that doesn't work the way he thinks it does. I'm just gonna leave it at that because I feel like we've talked that point to death.
Yet, in fact, we now know that a teacher's expectations are just as responsible, if not more so, than any classroom management techniques she uses and the students' responses to it.
Okay, so yeah, but these are different things, right? So a teacher, let's say like a first grade teacher, a first grade teacher, um, absolutely, they are in charge. They're in a position of authority. They are the adult over. Let's go with 36-year-olds, which sounds like a nightmare to me. God bless first grade teachers who like want to be there because that sounds terrible. Anywho, um yeah, like you are able to some degree affect behavior in your classroom. Not completely, right? Because if you have a kid that like had a really bad day at home, let's go with their pet died, right? Their pet died that morning and they're 6 and they don't know how to process those feelings. So they feel sad or maybe they feel angry, right? And they're having all of these really big feelings that their little 6-year-old body doesn't know how to process or handle. And so they get into the classroom and they start acting out, right? The teacher's expectations of that kid's behavior, right? Maybe let's say this 6-year-old kid comes into their first grade classroom and they straight up like flip a desk, right? The teacher can have all the expectation they want of we don't flip desks in my classroom, right? But um but their expectation didn't prevent that behavior, right? Now maybe if you have a really really good teacher, they can like help that child process those feelings and prevent more outbursts in the future, right? Or help them like, again, process those feelings because they don't know how to do that. That's a learned skill. Um Anywho, but like a teacher's expectations of the behavior of their students and how they communicate that does affect classroom behavior, but it does not completely, right? There's other factors. And sometimes 6-year-olds are going to be chaos gremlins and do chaos gremlin things because they're 6. So, and also, that is now psychology, right? That is psychology and communication and understanding like brain development of children and how to communicate with them to get the behaviors that you want, right? That has nothing to do with quantum physics. Hate to break it to you. These are very different fields. So it's not, and so he's using this observation and expectation here, talking about psychology, in the same way that he was using those words when he was talking about quantum physics and thinking that they're not the same thing. And just because we use these same words in English does not mean that they are describing the same fundamental processes. Okay.
The fact that your expectations, the vibrations of energy you create through your thoughts.
No, 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 no. Because that teacher can have as many expectations of their classroom as they want, right? If they don't communicate those expectations, if they don't say the words out loud, then the kids aren't going to know what the expectations are, right? You can't just think it at the children and expect them to telepathically get that information. That's nonsense.
And feelings directly influence and or create what you see gives you tremendous power.
No.
And as Spider-Man once said, with great power comes great responsibility.
First of all, that was Uncle Ben, and then becomes Spider-Man's mantra. So get your comic references right, my guy.
And accepting that responsibility is something you're probably not used to in our current paradigm of detached observation. The changes we see as the second science.
I don't know what that means. Most people are not detached observers of their own life, right? Like, here's an example of where I become a detached observer, right? Is like I think storms are really cool, and I have to remind myself that these are like a hurricane is a thing that really negatively impacts a lot of human lives. So I probably shouldn't express how excited I get about hurricanes, right? because while my science brain is like, this is a really cool fundamental process, right? I have to be like, that negatively impacts people's lives, so we're gonna like rein in that enthusiasm because that's inappropriate in this moment. Okay. Oh, hi, Scott Duke. Thanks for joining us. Um, I'm I'm a distracted panda at the moment. I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought of what he was saying. Um, oh, okay. Yeah. So like most, even if like as a if you are a scientist, professionally a scientist, when you are doing your science, you should do so as a like as unbiased as humanly possible. That's what you should try to do. That doesn't mean detached. That doesn't mean like unaware of the real human cost of like some of the things you're testing and experimenting on. In fact, you should never lose track of that because that's how you make an evil scientist, right? Um, uh, what? Oh gosh, I've got a D&D joke that like an evil scientist is just a high intelligence, low wisdom character because they lack the like they like lack the wisdom to fully understand the consequences of their actions, right? But a really really scary evil scientist would be a high intelligence, high wisdom, because they fully understand the consequences of what they're doing and choose to do it anyway. Anywho, D&D is more fun than woo a lot of times. Hey, this Wednesday, Guns, Magic, and Steel over on Cheshire Vic's channel. Okay, empathy is empathy is your dump stat. Yeah, empathy is my dump stat, ugly German truths. Question out of nowhere. Let's do this. This looks like fun from Our Dying Sun. Can a black hole be depleted completely? No. So, this is my understanding of black holes. The best way I know how to explain it kind of comes from a little bit of how Einstein explained it. Imagine the space-time continuum, the universe, is a rubber sheet, right? And then mass and gravity, so something with mass will bend that rubber sheet, and that will cause things to roll towards it, right? That's going to pull things towards it because of the dip in this rubber sheet, right? Um, and that's not a bad way to think about how gravity works. Okay, a black hole kind of represents where this rubber sheet has in fact broken. It is a hole in the rubber sheet, right? So there's a hole here. So we have really strong gravity pulling you down into nothing, right? Because anything that goes into a black hole never escapes, can't ever escape, including light, right? So a black hole isn't a thing that's like, it can't be filled. Also, like rules of our universe stop working inside the hole. We don't know the rules of physics inside a black hole because it's not required to obey the laws of physics in our universe. So now a black hole, so it can't really be depleted because it's not being filled. We can't fix it, right? What it can do is, so a black hole in our rubber sheet theory, right? Okay, so here's the edge of the black hole, right? It continues over this way. I just need more space. If I am over here, there you go. Yeah, you can see my finger. I am not affected, right? For me, the rubber plate, the rubber sheet isn't bending, right? Because even though a black hole is super massive, right, it doesn't affect infinitely everywhere. So it's not pulling everything in the universe towards it. It has kind of a radius of effect. So if I by my, if I was caused to move to here, then I would sink into the black hole. But as long as I stay outside of this radius, if I stay out here, sorry, you guys can't see my finger. There we go. If I stay out here, then I'll never be affected by that black hole. So black holes can't infinitely affect the universe. They can only affect a specifically defined area, right? And as long as you stay outside of that area, then you're good. You're good to go. You won't be pulled in. Okay. And absolutely slammer in, just because our our physics can't go there doesn't mean there's nothing there. And so Riddle asked what kind of black hole, charged, rotating, static, what about Hawking's radiation, etc. So you're getting outside my knowledge. I'm not an astrophysicist. I'm a meteorologist with a strong background in math and physical sciences, and specifically those 4 years I spent in the Navy doing nuclear physics. So of course, it's more complicated than what I just described, and there's exceptions, but that's kind of like black holes 101. Okay. Exactly. If the sheet in the analogy is really big, you can have an area that isn't affected much by the bend in the sheet. Exactly. Okay. And Argine said, I'm glad that helped. Okay, let's get back to quantum nonsense.
Scientific revolution is assimilated into our everyday lives will be wonderful for us in the long run. These changes will more accurately reflect the way the world really functions. The more you can embrace the new information, the more you will see your personal life changing for the better, and the less uncomfortable you will be with these new paradigms that will someday be old hat for your children and grandchildren.
No, I don't know what he's trying to talk about here. Like, I don't know. I don't really understand this. Also, Riddle, you're welcome. Native atheist, I don't do tornado videos because I don't study tornadoes. I did get to participate in a tornado field campaign. There's a video of that on my channel from 2019. I have my own feelings about recreational storm chasing. I'm in general against it. I know tornado videos would get me a lot of views, but I have feelings about that. Anywho, listen, if I for science for real, if I had a legitimate reason to be out in the field looking at a tornado, I would film it and put it on YouTube later. But I would consider myself to be a very much an amateur storm chaser, and I have feelings about amateur storm chasers. Anywho, my feelings are that they get people killed, so let's not do that.
Because of this information, our understandings of everything from how the human body works to how to govern a nation are already undergoing radical changes. But you can rest assured that although these changes will be unfamiliar and perhaps uncomfortable at first, they will ultimately make you and our society much more powerful influencers of our material reality.
What does that even mean? Much more powerful influencers. God. I did say that on Twitter. I'll do it. I promise. I've had a lot on my plate. I had forgotten I'd said that. I do want to do some more videos on consequences of climate change. That's definitely on deck. But anyhow. Okay. At this point, I legitimately do not know what this guy is trying to say. I think it's like one day we'll all understand quantum physics, and therefore we'll all understand the law of attraction and manifestation, and then we'll all be able to get what we want at all times, which seems like a really terrible way to govern and for the world to exist. Anywho, that seems bad. That seems like a bad thing. Also impossible and not real. Anyhow.
The good news is these changes will bring the way our universe really functions into better understanding. Remember, at one time, people felt very comfortable believing that the world was flat. But as uncomfortable as the new knowledge of a round Earth made people, weren't they better off knowing the truth? And aren't you also better off knowing the truth? I have a friend with a drug problem who got help.
Hey, I'm Russ Ruffino.
Oh, hey, I don't care. Let's skip some ads and we'll unmute and then I'm gonna read chat. Okay. What kind of data sets does a climatologist use? What kind of tools ever have to request supercomputer time? I use a supercomputer like every day. Luckily my advisor kind of has his own small one, so I get to use that one, which is great. What kind of data sets does a climatologist use? So climatology is generally looking over long periods of time. So like at least 30 years. So you would be interested in things like temperature, precipitation, cloud cover, 500 hectopascal heights. That's a great one to look at for general climate stuff. For more specific, that would be more specific to your like field. So for me with sea ice, I use satellite derived sea ice extent and concentration a whole lot. And also, let's see, surface winds, surface pressure, and tropopause, potential temperature on the dynamic tropopause, and winds on that dynamic tropopause. What kinds of tools? Mostly Python. I kind of have to code everything. Anything I want to do, I have to write a program to do it. So I use Python for that. Okay. Okay. I think that was all the questions. I wanted to address that. Okay, cool. Nailed it.
Told me that accepting her powerlessness over her addiction was a Herculean task at first. It wasn't until her sponsor explained that she wasn't really surrendering control over her addiction that my friend was able to change her personal paradigm from a hopeless addict to a recovering addict. It all changed for my friend when she learned that she wasn't actually surrendering control over her addiction. She was surrendering the illusion that she had control over her addiction.
She was so okay, but here's the thing, though, my guy. Surrendering the illusion that she had control over her addiction, right? Isn't that not anti-law of attraction, anti-manifestation? Because wouldn't that be like the way to cure my addiction is to manifest that I'm not addicted, right? Like, therefore, I am in control. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? That's okay. Like, I don't that doesn't make sense to me.
Because she never had control over it to begin with. And that's the way that paradigm changes from quantum physics will come about. Yes, there is a certain comfort and familiarity in the belief that life happens to us and that we have no control over reality.
Oh my goodness, my guy. Okay. And Dapper, I do not know why this looks like a video from a 1992 VHS. Okay. It's comforting to think that we have no control over reality. I have control. I think it's important that we understand what we do and don't have control over. I have little to no ability to control like the circumstances I find myself in, right? Um Goodness gracious. Okay. Um uh right, like I cannot control. I have absolutely no ability to control the fact that we're like that currently in my state the COVID numbers are ticking up, right? I have no ability to control that. That is out my that in that sense the reality is outside my control. What I can control is like how I personally choose to respond, right? I can choose to our numbers have been really, really low, so I haven't been wearing a mask outside of certain I mean, listen, I like live in my house. Obviously I live in my house. I very rarely leave my house. And usually when I do leave, I am interacting with mostly vaccinated people, right? So I haven't been masking as much. I haven't been as vigilant in that as I have been in the past. Now that I see those numbers tick up, I can choose to mask more. I can control that. I can control the fact that I'm vaxxed and boosted. Yay! um, but like I can't completely control my reality. That's not a thing that's possible. And you know what I mean? So like I feel like it's really important to understand what we can control and what we can't control. And for me, it really helps my anxiety to just like, okay, that's not a thing I can control. So I'm gonna focus on the things that I can. Right. Anywho.
To believe that people, places, and things are the way they are, and I have no control over them, makes perfect.
Lots of people, places, and things are the way that they are, and I have no control over them. Ugly German truths, that's a good idea. I could absolutely hold my breath the whole time I'm out of my living space. That seems reasonable. Um, I do get to control Dapper Dino's reality every other Wednesday when we play Dungeons and Dragons, and I get to DM, and it's super fun. Um, uh, Asexual. I want someone to explain this to me. I have this question. What if person A tries to manifest a sandwich and person B is like, you know what I'm going to do? Manifest you not getting a sandwich. What happens? What is supposed to happen in that case? I don't know. I don't know. Is it who? Because to me, that boils down to, well, which one had more faith, right? Or whatever the New Age woo version of that sentence is. Anyhow, cool. Ooh, that's rough. That's rough, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Vaccines are wonderful. They're so safe. So safe. Okay. Okay. Oh, yes, yes. So like people, places, and things are to the large. I cannot control another person. I can't do that, right? I can potentially affect them, right? Like if I have a relationship with them, you know what I mean? I can make my friend happy by like sending them a gift or saying your hair looks great today. But that's like I can't control their behavior, you know, and thinking that you can is super toxic and bad and not how relationships work. Anyway, also places. How in the world am I supposed to affect like economic stability of the state of Oklahoma, right? Like maybe if I like became governor, you know, but I'm over here being a scientist, you know what I mean? Goodness. Okay.
Perfect sense to us. Yet, just like my friend's experience, quantum physics is teaching us that we do have power over the people, places, and things in our lives.
We sure don't, and don't try. That sounds super toxic and bad.
Our observations and expectations are what create them. And using that power, the law of attraction, doesn't actually require you to do anything radically different because you've always had that power to begin with. Now you can begin to use your power deliberately. You can learn to shape your reality like a potter molds clay on a clay wheel.
How? That doesn't make any sense. I'm getting some votes for governor of Oklahoma. Maybe. Listen, we just got to get Stitt out of office. I'm very pro. Our Democratic candidate is her name's Joy. She's like a teacher. So education is our big thing right now. We're like last education in the country because our governor refuses to fund it and is also trying to take money away for vouchers. And I've got a lot of feels about that, right? But back to like things I can and can't control. I can't control the governor's behavior. I can control who I vote for. I can control if I choose to get involved in politics, right? I can choose to like donate money to a campaign, right? Like that's what I have control over. I don't have control over the governor. And I certainly can't manifest the governor behaving better.
First, you can start thinking differently, and then you will see changes in your everyday experiences. It's been said that the truth shall set you free. Of course, it's also been said that first, it will piss you off. So don't be overly concerned by your initial reaction to reject this information, to poo-poo it as nonsense. I've been there too. Once you can get past your resistance, you'll experience a whole new world of possibilities that will emerge from the second scientific revolution. An important word of caution. The concepts introduced here are very real, and they work because they are universal law. However,
no! Oh my gosh. Sorry. He's really like I get he's just wrapping things up, but like you're just gonna keep on the woo train, my guy.
do not make the mistake I did and think that mere positive thinking and positive affirmations give you carte blanche to take any action and make it successful just because you desire it to be so. As I wrote earlier, your underlying beliefs about things are much stronger than any positive thinking you perform.
So this is the This is you have to change your underlying beliefs in order to manifest what you want. And that's why if you try to manifest something and it doesn't work, oh, it's because your underlying beliefs, right? It's not a problem with the system. That can't be right. It has to be a problem with you. um, yeah, Dapper, that's a good point. Uh, don't think this is going to just work. It won't, but believe it anyway. Absolutely. Uh,
And those beliefs will ultimately continue to manifest themselves despite any veneer of positive thoughts. To play alchemist with the world, which is your birthright.
I'm sorry. My birthright is to play alchemist with the world. No, thank you. Oh my goodness. No. No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know what your birthright is? Don't be a dick. That's the full thing. Goodness gracious. This is bad.
You must first change your beliefs. You desire more money, a loving relationship, a great job, a wonderful home, a fancy car, etc., right? Invest your time in changing your beliefs, and you'll find yourself attracting those very things.
Or hear me out. Um hear me out. Let's say you want to improve your current socioeconomic situation, right? This is what I would do, right? If that was like my goal, I would identify where I want to be, right? Like, so if I am working a minimum wage job, right? And what I want is it could be different, right? It might be I like this job, right? But I want to be paid a living wage. Maybe the thing to do is then like, well, then we need to unionize. You can see that with like Starbucks happening, right? Or maybe I'm like, I am doing this job that I do not like and does not pay me enough. Um, I would rather do this job over here. What am I missing in my life? What skills am I missing to go from A to B? Right. Let's identify what I'm missing. And that's probably going to be some degree of education. And what do I need to do to make that happen? Right. So, for example, let's say you're working as a barista, but you hate that job and you don't want to do it forever. I would never want to be a barista forever. I don't ever want to be in a customer service position. I'm not good enough with people and people stress me out. So that would be a bad job for me. But let's say that's what I was doing. And I was like, you know what I would love to do? I would love to be just a code monkey programmer, right? Um, because then I don't have to talk to people as much and that also pays better. So let's figure that out. Maybe what I need to do is save up or invest in doing a coding boot, like a 12-week coding boot camp, and then apply through jobs after that, right? So that taking like concrete action is going to be a much better investment of your time and energy than I'm going to work on changing my beliefs. Right? Not my thoughts, not what I think about things, but those unconscious beliefs. I'm going to work on in the like bad Christian verbiage of this, which is what I'm more familiar with, would be I'm going to work on growing my faith. Like, what does that mean? I don't know. Ugh. Nebulon, you're killing my dreams thinking that code monkeys don't have to talk to people. I'm not a code monkey. I'm not very good at programming. I just have to be able to do it to do science things. Ugly German Truth, that's a good point. Our birthright is mostly dying. That's really the only thing that's guaranteed in life. I know that sounds super like nihilistic, but it's like it's not. I'm like a happy person, right? I like my life a whole lot. I like hanging out with you guys on Saturday mornings. You know, it's a thing. Uh but like let's be a little real about the universe. It's cold and unfeeling, spiraling towards heat death, and the only thing we're guaranteed is to die eventually. uh Dapper, that doesn't help. growing my faith is when you put some faith cuttings in the ground and you wait for your faith orchard to grow so that you can like harvest, because you definitely like reap what you sow. And like there's always a time for harvest. That's my cult member voice, if you were wondering. Okay, cool.
In accordance with quantum physics, once your beliefs are aligned with your desires, you cannot fail to attract those things. And that
What? No, BS. Does it need more vocal fry, Dapper? We're the number one. Aren't you glad that's not the voice that I chose for Clear Masters? And other things that are more fun than this. Wednesdays when I don't DM, I now get to be a player in a help me, Dapper, Power Rangers role-playing game that Dapper Dinosaur is the GM for.
That is exactly how the law of attraction can work for you. If you're interested in learning more, please feel free to visit my website.
Okay, he's gonna like shill his books now, but I like he ended that with something that absolutely pisses me off, which is once your like beliefs and your desires are aligned, you'll not fail to manifest. So again, that is like that I can draw such a like direct line from that to. By the way, that's the name of the actual play we're doing. It's on Dapper's Top Hats Off channel every other Wednesday. So I'm on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Central. I'm either DMing on Cheshire Vic's channel or playing on Dapper's Top Hats Off channel. Anywho, I'm gonna leave that up for Tish because I'm bad at shilling. Oh, okay. So the direct line that I can draw from New Age Woo of once your beliefs and expectations are aligned, you'll never fail to manifest what you want. I can draw that straight to like people in like especially deep in prosperity gospel. The like if you have enough faith, right, then you can have anything. It's like the faith of a mustard seed can move mountains. All you need is the faith of a mustard seed, and then you can do anything. Right. You know that it's the same thing, right? It's different words for the same thing. So this is very much if what you wanted to happen didn't happen, right? If what you prayed for or what you tried to manifest, if these things don't happen, it is your fault either for not having enough faith. So what you need to do is work on growing your faith, or because your beliefs and expectations are unaligned. So what you really need to do is work on aligning those things. And that's really incredibly toxic. That's really bad. It's also super ableist and bad. So the ways in which that's ableist, right? I'm debating a little bit. I'm sorry, my voice creeped you out, Mackenzie. I'm debating a little bit about doing a few vlog style videos for this channel. Because I don't talk about this a whole lot. Because I kind of view it as private, but like I do personally deal with some chronic illness. I have for about 8 years. Like thankfully this last year has been physically the best I have felt in adulthood, which is amazing. But that's certainly made, like learning to manage a chronic illness and chronic pain is really difficult, as you might imagine. And things like this are so unhelpful because it's, oh, you're in pain. Oh, you're sick. Just think yourself out of it, And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? What did you want me to do? Or it adds guilt when you try to do these things. You try to like think yourself out of it or pray yourself out of it. And when you try to do those things and then it doesn't work, right? Now, in addition to being sick and in pain, now you feel guilty and isolated from the people that were trying to maybe be well-meaning, but were just being ableist, who are trying to be like, well, have you tried this? And then you're like, yes, and it helped 0. And then they don't know what to do, right? And so then they kind of like socially isolate you because you're breaking their view of how the world works. Um, uh, yeah, like exactly, Deborah. Like, oh, you have a compound fracture of the femur. Just believe you don't, and you'll get all better. Um, management is like, what if you gave 110%? And it's like, are you going to pay me 110% of my hourly rate? No, then you can have 100%. Thank you. Um, Amazing. I'm glad to know you'd like to hear about that. Yeah. So, because I kind of one of the things that I found when I was like looking for resources is I really struggled to find people who were in my position, which was I found I found resources and support for people who com- like due to their illness had to completely like drop out of the workforce, right? But less so about now I'm dealing with this thing. How do I balance my like goals for my life? You know, I can still do work as long as I have appropriate accommodations. How do I communicate that? How do I do STEM with this stuff? So um and that's been really, really, really hard to like learn how to manage, you know? Um, but I definitely didn't manage it or handle it super well. So I'm thinking about doing some like vlog type stuff on that. Anyway, so I do get really pissed off about things like this that are like super ableist, disguising themselves as like not. But this is just this whole thing, as bad as his understanding of quantum physics is, his whole like belief system is just new age prosperity gospel. Prosperity gospel, as it started in the United States, was not just about money. It actually started more about health, right? That yeah, so it was if you have faith, right? If you're a good Christian, then you will be healthy. That was more where it started, and it didn't start super insidious and nefarious. It was born at a time when oftentimes like the medical treatment was like the cure was worse than the disease kind of thing, because that was where medicine was really scary. And so you had like religious healing centers pop up where mostly what they offered was rest, care, good food, clean water, right? Which we all know, like if you're sick, rest, right? And so at the time with the state of medicine, right? Oftentimes these like religious healing centers were just as, if not more effective than traditional medicine, not because of like prayer or religious aspects, but because what they offered was rest and a good and an appropriate diet, right? Um, those things don't like that's not the true today because medicine has advanced quite a bit. Also, the majority of people in say the United States or in the developed world um, aren't lacking calories, right? Whereas if you go back 200 years, most people physically weren't getting enough calories. So if you're sick, a really great thing to do to help that person get better is feed them enough, make sure they drink water, and let them rest, right? Um, Anywho, yes, there was a time when praying and doing nothing else was better than going to the hospital. That is not the case now. Anywho, um, then that but that like they kind of like didn't get what was working about those healing centers, and it turned into like a faith thing, and then that developed into the modern prosperity gospel. There's a really great book on it. It's called Blessed by Kate Bowler. That's like the um, history of the prosperity gospel in the U.S. It's fascinating. Riddle, thank you for hanging out. Yeah. Maybe we'll see you next week. Anywho, so anyway, but this new age stuff it's that same thing packaged differently. It's the same. If you believe it enough, if you want it enough, then you can have it, right? If you want to be rich, you can have that. That's prosperity gospel with new age jargon. Um, Anywho, okay. Well, we've been going almost 2 hours, and I so enjoyed doing this today, team. So next weekend, I'm actually out of town. So I'm going to try to have a video premiere set up at the same ish time slot. But my husband and I are going down to Dallas for a much needed little getaway, just the two of us. We're going to a horror convention in Dallas. I'm not a big horror fan, but my husband loves it so much. He's so excited. So I'll be probably watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Anyway, um, question out of nowhere from our dying son. Uh, is there any credibility to Sean Carroll's multiverse? I don't know. I don't know. I'm writing it down as things of random videos that I probably need to produce. Um, yeah. Sean Carroll's multiverse. Okay. So, other things coming up. On Tuesday, there should be another Weather 101 video come out. That one is going to be on, what is it on? It's on, wet bulb temperature. We got to define a couple more terms because I want to teach you guys how to read skew-T diagrams, which can help you like identify where severe weather is going to occur. This Wednesday is Guns, Magic, and Steel. So I'll be DMing 6 p.m. Central over on Cheshire Vic's channel. Hopefully Saturday I will have a video to premiere. It will probably be on like a random science topic. So it won't be a Weather 101 thing. It'll be, I've been asked several questions recently and I want to do, video responses to them. Who is the best Blue Ranger? Me. I'm playing Claire Masters, Blue Ranger, in our campaign. So clearly, Claire Masters is the best Blue Ranger. And I don't know what's happening after that. That's all I got. That's as far into the future as I can think. But you guys are really, really cool. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for those that donated through super chats. That's super kind, and I really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, YouTuber shill stuff. And I will see you guys soon. Okay, I hope you have just an excellent day, excellent weekend, and I'll see you guys soon. All right, bye team.